He sold her beach house behind her back, but she proved she wasn't weak. And took back everything that was hers. Alright, before we dive into this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let's begin. Claire Bennett had always lived with intention. A retired literature professor with soft gray curls and a no-nonsense way of folding sweaters, she was a woman of morning rituals and handwritten thank you notes. At 60, she had adjusted to the quiet after her husband's passing, and while life hadn't been easy, it was hers, measured, meaningful, and mostly peaceful. Until now. We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house. Claire froze, spoon halfway to her mouth, oatmeal cooling in the bowl. Her mornings were rituals, quiet, comforting. But nothing prepared her for this. She looked across the breakfast table at Ethan, her only son, 23, neatly dressed in chinos and a slim blue sweater, his laptop open beside a half-eaten bagel. His tone was too casual, like he was reading her the weather forecast. You what? Sold it, he repeated without blinking. It's a done deal. We're going down tomorrow to finalize everything. Claire set the spoon down gently. The beach house in Cape May wasn't just property, it was heritage. Built in the 1940s by Claire's grandfather, it had survived storms, weddings, funerals, and decades of summers. It was where Claire fell in love, where Ethan learned to swim, and where time moved slower, like the tide. The Cape May beach house had been in her family for 3 generations. Her mother was born there. Her late husband painted the porch rails every summer with Ethan beside him, both covered in blue flecks by noon. She hadn't been there in 2 years, but it was the one place that still felt untouched by grief and aging. A place that held echoes of laughter and the lull of tides. You don't have the right, she said quietly. It's in my name. Was in your name, he said, sipping his coffee. We did a power of attorney thing last year, remember? When you had that shoulder surgery. You signed some documents. Claire blinked, the corners of her vision softening. She remembered the hospital, the white walls, the painkillers, the fatigue. Ethan had been so helpful. He'd brought flowers, arranged her insurance, and handed her a folder of paperwork. Just some legal forms, he had said. To make things easier while you recover. She never thought he'd use them like this. You used that to sell my house? Without even asking me? Ethan looked irritated now. I used it to save us. The taxes were piling up. The maintenance bills, the insurance. You said yourself it was too much. You can't manage 2 properties anymore. That doesn't mean I wanted it gone. You didn't say you didn't. Claire felt the rise of a sharp, unfamiliar rage in her chest. She stood, pushing back her chair. I want to see the documents. Everything. Right now. Ethan gestured to his laptop with an exasperated sigh. It's all there. Emails, agreements. The buyer's a real estate group from Philadelphia. They're paying full market value. It's a good deal. Claire didn't sit. She walked slowly to the side table by the window where her phone was charging. She dialed quickly. Luke Harrison, said the recorded voice. Leave a message. Luke, it's Claire. Call me back. It's urgent. Something's wrong with the beach house. She hung up and turned to Ethan. You blindsided me. You haven't been down there in 2 years, Mom. You barely talk about it. Because it hurts. Because your father died and it was the only place that still smelled like him. That porch swing? We bought that the week you were born. The corner where the deck leans? Your father said he'd fix it and never did. It's not just a house, Ethan. His eyes softened for a second. I know. But memories don't pay property tax. Claire walked to her desk and opened her laptop with trembling fingers. She searched her inbox, heart pounding. And there it was, a scanned document titled Property Sale Agreement. She clicked it open. Her name. Her signature. Her heart dropped. The letters curled exactly like her handwriting, her maiden name barely visible in the small legal print. It looked real. But she had no memory of this. You forged this. I didn't. I used the POA you gave me. That made it legal. Legal isn't moral, Ethan. He stood now, a flash of guilt across his face. Just come with me tomorrow, meet the buyer. If you still hate it, we'll figure something out. But don't freak out. Claire stared at him, trying to reconcile the boy who used to beg her to stay up late in that very beach house with the man who now treated her legacy like a business deal. She whispered, "You don't even understand what you've done yet." And in her chest, something old cracked open. Claire opens her email and sees a scanned sale agreement signed C. Bennett. She stares, mouth open, believing she never signed anything. Claire barely slept that night. The beach house invaded her dreams, its white shutters clapping in the wind, the smell of salt air, her husband humming as he grilled by the porch. But the dreams always shifted, ending in silence. In erasure. By morning, she was packed. Ethan loaded the car without speaking. The silence wasn't tense, it was tactical. Claire could feel it. He was waiting for her to cool down, to fold into his logic. She wouldn't. Not this time. "Where's Marisol?" she asked, slipping into the front seat. Ethan glanced at her. "She's coming. She'll meet us on the highway." Claire frowned. "She's not family, she's involved now." Claire didn't reply. She stared at the road ahead, watching the Montclair skyline shrink behind them. It felt like a funeral procession, quiet, slow, full of things unsaid. About an hour in, Ethan broke the silence. "Mom, I know you're angry." "I'm not angry," Claire said, eyes fixed ahead. "I'm betrayed." He exhaled, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "You weren't going to do anything with it. It was just sitting there. It's mine to sit on." Ethan didn't respond. Marisol joined them at a gas station near Trenton, sliding into the back seat without fanfare. She wore large sunglasses and earbuds, clearly avoiding small talk. Claire didn't bother greeting her. As they continued, Claire's phone buzzed. A text from Luke, looking into POA validity. "We'll call. Sit tight." She stared at it for a while before tucking it away. "I hope you're ready to explain everything once we get there," she said, not turning around. "I told you everything." "No, you didn't," Claire replied. "You told me what you wanted me to believe." They drove in silence for a while longer. The car smelled faintly of Ethan's cologne and fast food. Claire rolled the window down, needing air. Then, somewhere near Vineland, Claire spoke again. "Do you remember the summer you broke your arm jumping off the dock?" Ethan chuckled lightly. "I was showing off. You yelled so loud the lifeguard thought I was drowning." Claire allowed herself a small smile. "Your father drove 2 hours just to sit by your bedside. He was angry at first, then he cried. That dock is still there." Ethan said nothing. "It was never just a house," she continued. "It was a timeline. You just tried to erase it." Marisol finally spoke from the backseat. "No one's erasing anything, Claire. You'll still have the memories." Claire turned, voice sharper than she intended. "I didn't ask for your input." The rest of the drive was silent. When they pulled into a roadside diner for lunch, Claire got out quickly and went inside alone. She needed space. Inside, the waitress, a woman maybe her own age, smiled kindly and poured coffee without asking. Claire sat at the window, watching Ethan outside, phone to his ear, pacing. And then she noticed something strange. 2 men stood by the gas pumps, one in a navy blazer, the other in rolled shirt sleeves. They were watching Ethan. One of them pulled a small folder from his car and handed it to Ethan. Claire couldn't hear anything, but she saw Ethan stiffen, then glance toward the diner. She ducked slightly, heart pounding. Who were they? She fumbled for her phone and took a quick photo through the glass. Then she went outside calmly, like nothing had happened. Ethan looked up. "Ready to keep going?" Claire nodded. You made some friends, I see. He flinched, barely noticeable. As they drove away, Claire opened her bag and slid the phone into airplane mode. She didn't trust anyone right now, not even her son. Claire sees Ethan receiving a folder from a stranger while looking nervously toward the diner. Who is this man, and what has Ethan really gotten into? The sun had barely risen when they pulled out of the driveway. The car was silent, the kind of silence that wasn't peaceful but charged, like static before lightning. Claire sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the window. Trees blurred past in green and gold streaks, and the occasional stretch of fog hovered above the road. She couldn't tell if her heart was racing from anger or grief. Ethan drove with both hands on the wheel, jaw tight, focus straight ahead. Marisol sat behind him, earbuds in, scrolling on her phone. Claire hadn't said a word to her. The Garden State Parkway stretched ahead like a thread leading them back into something she wasn't ready to unravel. I remember the first time we drove down with you, Claire said suddenly, voice low. You were too. You screamed the entire trip until your father pulled over and carried you down to the waterline. You stopped crying the second your feet touched the sand. Ethan didn't respond, but Claire saw his knuckles shift on the wheel. You loved that house more than I did, she added. Until now, apparently. We're just going to finalize some things, Ethan muttered. Let's not start again. Claire leaned back. We never stopped. They passed signs for Atlantic City, then Wildwood. Towns once familiar, now distant. Claire watched the marshlands and roadside diners disappear behind them like memories she hadn't meant to let go of. Around mile marker 19, the car slowed suddenly. Ethan cursed under his breath. Flat tire, he said, pulling to the shoulder. Claire opened the door before he stopped fully. She needed air. Marisol stayed inside. The roadside smelled of heat and gravel. A gas station and a small convenience store stood about 100 yards ahead. Claire walked toward it, not saying a word. Inside, the store was quiet. A local radio station hummed about an upcoming coastal storm. Claire wandered to the back, half listening. She didn't know what she was looking for until she heard it. Two men at the coffee station were chatting, one with a map open. They closed on that Cape May place, near the dunes. Harlow's firm picked it up fast. Probably tear it down. Claire froze. Harlow. She turned slightly, heart thudding. One of the men caught her eye and smiled politely. She nodded, then left quickly. Back outside, Ethan was tightening the spare tire. Marisol still hadn't exited the car. Everything all right? Ethan asked. Claire stared at him. You didn't tell me Richard Harlow was involved. Ethan stood. What? The buyer. It's Harlow's firm. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Ethan looked caught, but not surprised. They're just financing it. Claire's stomach dropped. The last time she heard that name, her life had been in pieces. They drove in silence again. But this time, Claire was alert, watching. When they stopped for gas in a sleepy town a few miles outside Cape May, Claire sat in the car alone while Ethan went inside. That's when she saw it. Outside, just past the pump stations, Ethan stood with a man in a light jacket. They weren't making small talk. The man handed Ethan a folder, and Ethan opened it quickly, flipping through its contents. They both glanced toward the car. Claire ducked slightly. The man wore mirrored sunglasses and a Harlow and Company lapel pin. She waited, breath shallow, until Ethan returned. He climbed in, too casually. Just paid cash, he said. Claire didn't respond. She pulled out her phone, snapped a photo through the side mirror, and turned it to airplane mode. She didn't want her data traceable, not now. She knew the look on Ethan's face wasn't guilt. It was fear. And fear was always a sign of more secrets. The sky had turned a pale gold by the time they reached Cape May. Claire rolled down the window slightly, breathing in the familiar scent of salt and old cedar. For a fleeting moment, she remembered arriving here as a bride, then as a mother, and now, something she couldn't quite name. A trespasser? They turned onto Ocean Avenue, and Claire's breath caught. The house stood at the end of the lane, just past the dune grass, weathered, paint peeling, yet proud. Her heart swelled and cracked all at once. But the moment was ruined when she noticed a sleek black car already parked in front of it. "That's Gavin Shaw," Ethan said too quickly. "He's managing the closing." Claire stiffened. "Gavin Shaw from Shaw Properties?" "Yeah." She got out of the car slowly. Gavin had once offered to buy the beach house 5 years ago. She'd refused him flatly. He stepped forward now with a wide realtor smile and outstretched hand. "Claire Bennett. It's good to see you again." She didn't take his hand. "You're brokering this?" she asked. "Only facilitating. Harlow and Company made the offer. I'm just making it official." Claire glanced at Ethan, who avoided her eyes. "I want all the paperwork. Right now." Gavin hesitated, then handed her a manila folder. "Everything we've filed so far. You can review it with your lawyer." "My lawyer doesn't even know I'm here. Because I wasn't supposed to be part of this." Marisol walked up behind them. "Maybe we should go inside. Everyone's tired." Claire narrowed her eyes. "You're awfully eager for a vacation home you didn't grow up in." "Claire," Ethan began. She turned on her heel and marched toward the house. The porch creaked beneath her feet, exactly as she remembered. Her fingers trembled as she turned the old brass knob and stepped inside. The air was cool and still. Dust motes floated through sunbeams like time paused mid-breath. Claire moved from room to room, touching the walls, brushing her fingers across the fireplace mantel. Each object whispered memories: Ethan's baby blanket folded in the cedar chest, the carved seagull her husband bought at a roadside shop. She heard voices outside, Gavin saying something about signatures. Claire didn't care. She needed answers. She climbed the stairs to the second floor and pulled out her phone. A new voicemail blinked on the screen. She played it. "Claire, it's Dana. I don't have time to explain everything right now. But don't trust Ethan. And whatever you do, don't sign anything. You're walking into a trap." Her chest tightened. She saved the message and went back downstairs. Outside, she found Ethan leaning against the porch rail, staring out toward the dunes. "I got a message from Dana," she said quietly. His shoulders stiffened. "She's trying to stir things up. She said not to trust you." Ethan turned. "And you believed her?" Claire studied his face. "I don't know what I believe. But I know you're hiding something." "I told you the truth." "No, you told me the version that made you feel less guilty." The screen door banged as Marisol stepped out. "Is everything okay?" "No," Claire said simply. "But I'm staying until it is." That night, Claire barely slept. The old guest room creaked with every breeze. Around midnight, she walked down to the kitchen for water, and nearly tripped over something at the front door. A thick envelope had been slipped under it. Her name was written in block letters. Inside were 2 photographs, one of Ethan at about age 10, standing in front of a building labeled Harlow and Company, and another of her, much younger, walking beside Richard Harlow. No note. No explanation. Just shadows from the past. Claire sat on the edge of the guest room bed, the photos spread out before her like puzzle pieces from a life she didn't realize had been tampered with. She stared at the picture of Ethan, 10 years old, smiling awkwardly in front of the Harlow and Company office. Why had he been there? And why had no one told her? Her phone buzzed just after dawn. It was Luke. "I've been digging all night," he said without preamble. "Claire, there's a second mortgage on the beach house. It was filed 5 years ago. Under your name." Claire stood, heart thudding. "What are you talking about? I never took out another mortgage." "You didn't," Luke said. "But someone did. Using the power of attorney." Claire gripped the windowsill. "Ethan." "It's worse than that," Luke said. "The lender is a private equity firm registered under Harlow and Company." Claire's knees gave slightly. She sat back down. They used your house as collateral, Luke continued. If the sale goes through now, most of the money will go to pay off that mortgage. Not to you. And if the buyer finds out it was done under suspicious conditions, you could be liable. Claire whispered, he leveraged everything. Yes. Without telling you. She hung up and sat frozen for a long time. Eventually, she walked down to the beach. The wind was strong, and the ocean foamed angrily at the shore. She remembered Ethan building sandcastles here. Remembered Richard Harlow's brief smile at a summer charity event when she was newly widowed. She had turned down his flirtation easily back then. Or so she thought. Ethan found her there an hour later. Mom, we need to talk, he said, breathless from jogging. Claire didn't turn. Tell me about the second mortgage. Ethan flinched. I had no choice. There is always a choice, she said. You chose this. You chose to sign my name, to borrow against the only thing we had left. I thought I could pay it back. I thought selling the house would fix everything. Claire turned now, eyes shining but hard. You thought a lie would fix a theft? He looked down. Marisol helped. She said Harlow's group was looking for acquisitions. They offered a deal. I took it. She's in on this too? She believed in me. Claire almost laughed. She believed in a payout. Ethan looked ruined. I messed up. But I was trying to protect us. Claire stepped closer. You didn't protect me, Ethan. You buried me. He tried to hand her a folder. These are the latest documents. You should see them. She took it, thumbed through it, transaction records, emails, a promissory note signed C. Bennett. Her handwriting. Too perfect to be hers. Back inside, Claire called Luke again. Can we stop this? Not easily, Luke said. There's a scheduled wire transfer for the full amount this afternoon. Once that hits, it's done. What do I do? You fight. But we need evidence. Proof the signature is forged. Or proof of coercion. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the dunes, Claire went up to the attic. She hadn't been up there in over a decade. She found a dusty box labeled, Richard H/1998. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Some flirtatious, others businesslike. And one stood out. It was from Richard, dated the same year Ethan was born. If you ever change your mind about telling him, I'll be here. I want to be part of his life, Claire. Claire stared at the page for a long time. And realized something even darker. Richard might have known about Ethan all along. Which meant this sale wasn't just about real estate. It was personal. She took the letter and returned downstairs. That night, she couldn't sleep. At 3 a.m. a phone buzzed in the hallway. Marisol's voice whispered outside her door. Yes, she's here. She doesn't know everything yet. But she will. Just be ready. Morning brought no peace. Claire stood on the porch, wrapped in a faded shawl, watching waves roll against the shore. The Atlantic stretched out like an old companion, familiar, vast, indifferent. It had always been the one thing that never betrayed her. Until now, even it felt uncertain. She sipped lukewarm coffee as Marisol emerged from the house behind her. You're up early, Marisol said, too cheerful. Claire didn't look at her. Didn't sleep. You were on the phone last night. Marisol froze mid-step. I was checking in with a friend. Claire turned slowly. Who's Richard to you? Marisol's smile faltered. He's a client. Through Ethan. Claire nodded. He's not just your client. He's Ethan's father. Isn't he? Marisol's lips parted but no words came. Claire stared out at the ocean. I always knew there was something about Ethan's eyes. My husband, God rest him, never questioned it. But I did. Now I wonder if everyone else knew before me. Behind them, the screen door creaked. Ethan stepped out, sleep still on his face. Mom. I'm not your enemy, Claire said. But you've made me feel like one. Ethan looked like he wanted to speak but thought better of it. Claire handed him the letter from Richard. Did you know about this? He read it, jaw tightening. He gave me a copy a few months ago. Said it was time I knew. Claire exhaled. And so you decided the best way to deal with it was to sell the house? To destroy everything left of the life we had? It wasn't just that, Ethan said. He promised me something better. A position. Real income. A chance to be someone. Claire's voice cracked. You already were someone. You were mine. Ethan looked away. Later that afternoon, Claire sat at the kitchen table with Luke on speaker. We've filed for a temporary injunction, Luke said. It'll stall the sale, but only for 48 hours. After that, we need evidence of fraud. I have forged documents, Claire said. Too risky. The signatures are too perfect. You need something more personal. A motive. A threat. Claire thought of the envelope at the door. The photos. Dana's voicemail. She opened her phone and replayed the message from her sister. Don't trust Ethan. Don't sign anything. You're walking into a trap. Luke was silent a moment. That's something. Especially if we can tie Dana to Richard or Harlow and company. I saw her leave town hall in a car with their plates, Claire added. That could change everything. Claire hung up and turned to Ethan, who had been listening from the hallway. You still have a choice, she said. Fix this. He nodded slowly. I'll try. That night, just before bed, Claire returned to the porch. The waves had calmed. The moonlight glinted off the water like broken glass. She stood there a long time until she noticed something odd. A small black car had pulled into the driveway across the street. It stayed parked. Lights off. Engine silent. Watching. The next morning, Claire stood at the end of the driveway, watching the black car from the night before reverse down the street. Whoever it was had stayed all night. She turned quickly and walked inside. Her pulse was high, her mind sharper than it had been in days. If someone was watching, she needed to know why. Downstairs, Marisol sat at the kitchen island, sipping coffee, scrolling her phone. She didn't look up. I want you to leave today, Claire said flatly. Marisol blinked. What? You've lied, manipulated, and now someone's sitting in a car outside this house all night like we're in a crime movie. I'm done pretending you're just Ethan's girlfriend. Ethan entered from the back porch. What's going on? Claire didn't break eye contact with Marisol. She's leaving. Marisol stood. You don't have the authority. It's my house. For now, Claire said. Marisol scoffed but left the room. Ethan paced. She's trying to help. No, Ethan. She's trying to survive the fallout. And she's betting that aligning with Richard gets her out clean. Ethan lowered his head. Claire picked up her phone and called a number she hadn't dialed in 5 years. Dana answered on the third ring. Claire. Tell me the truth. Are you working with Richard Harlow? A pause. Come to town hall, Dana said. 3rd floor. Back staircase. Don't bring Ethan. Claire arrived 20 minutes later. The town hall was quiet. As instructed, she took the side entrance and climbed the old staircase to a maintenance hallway. Dana stood waiting in a beige trench coat like a spy from a 1960s film. You look terrible, Dana said. Tell me what's happening. Dana exhaled. I needed money, years ago. Richard helped. It started small, consulting work, legal loopholes. Then he found out about the house. You told him Ethan might be his? Dana looked away. I didn't know it would go this far. But once you refused to sell, they made their own plan. Ethan's name was easy to use. So was yours. Claire's stomach dropped. So you forged my name too? Dana didn't answer. Why? Claire asked. Because you always got everything, Dana whispered. The house. The attention. The sun. I got left. Claire clenched her fists. You took from me the only thing I had left. Dana pulled an envelope from her coat. This is Richard's real plan. He's not stopping at the house. He wants your insurance, your pension records. Everything. He thinks you're weak. Claire snatched the envelope. He's wrong. Back at the house, Claire pored through the documents. It wasn't just about the house. Richard had filed shell company requests in her name, targeting her retirement accounts. She took photos. Sent them to Luke. He called immediately. This is criminal. We need to file a motion first thing tomorrow. That night, Claire sat on the porch alone again. The black car returned. But this time, she didn't flinch. She stood up, walked across the lawn, and approached the window. The man inside rolled it down. I have a message, he said. From Richard. He wants to meet. Alone. Where? He'll find you. Claire didn't wait to be found. The next morning, she called Luke, arranged for a private investigator, and packed a single bag. If Richard Harlow wanted a conversation, she'd bring more than words. Ethan watched her pack with wide eyes. Where are you going? To clean up your mess. He stepped in her path. I didn't want this, Mom. Claire stared at him. Then why did you sign everything he put in front of you? His voice cracked. Because I didn't know who I was without him. Without you. I was tired of feeling small. Claire's heart tugged, but she pushed past. We all feel small. The brave ones don't sell their family to get taller. She arrived at Margaret Ellis's house an hour later. Margaret, her old beach neighbor, was now semi-retired and still sharp as a tack. I've been waiting for you, Margaret said, handing her a thick folder. I knew something was wrong when I saw Dana with that real estate lawyer last summer. Inside the folder, old tax documents, a loan application with Claire's name forged, and an email chain between Dana and a contact at Harlow and Company. Claire blinked. This is gold. Margaret nodded. I'm tired of watching men take what doesn't belong to them. Back at the house, Ethan tried to apologize again. Claire listened, but her face was unreadable. I wanted something that felt like mine, Ethan said. My dad's gone. You were moving on. I didn't want to be left behind. Claire finally spoke. You weren't left behind. You ran ahead in the wrong direction. He looked devastated. Later that evening, Marisol knocked on Claire's door. I'm leaving, she said. Claire raised a brow. Running? No. I want to come clean. She handed Claire a flash drive. Everything. Emails, recordings, contracts. I kept them in case things went sideways. Claire took it. Why now? Marisol looked away. Because Richard isn't just dangerous. He's unhinged. And if he feels cornered, he won't stop at business. Will he hurt Ethan? If it helps him win? Yes. Claire's jaw tightened. Then he's made this personal. Luke called as she inserted the flash drive into her laptop. Claire, I've just confirmed it, Dana sold your identity to a holding company. It links to Richard. The paper trail leads straight to him. And if I take this public? It'll trigger a court injunction and likely a federal investigation. Claire watched as the screen loaded video files. One showed Dana, in a dimly lit office, signing what appeared to be Claire's deed. This ends tomorrow, she said. A soft knock on the door. It was Ethan. Are you going to destroy him? He asked quietly. I'm going to stop him. That night, Claire couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, as if holding its breath. She stood in the hallway outside Ethan's room, remembering the nights she stayed up rocking him through fevers, the hours spent reading to him under blankets. He had been hers. Or so she thought. She turned the flash drive over in her hand. It felt heavier than any courtroom gavel. In the morning, Ethan was already on the porch when she stepped outside. He was pale, hollow-eyed. "I know you have questions," he said quietly. "I have answers," Claire replied, "and one of them is yours." She handed him the letter from Richard, the one from 1998. Ethan read it slowly, fingers trembling. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. "Because your father, Thomas, was the man who raised you, loved you, stayed for everything. Richard was a moment. A mistake. And after he found out, I never saw him the same." Ethan wiped at his eyes. "He told me you kept me from him. I protected you from him." Ethan shook his head. "He gave me a job. A vision. I felt like I belonged to something." Claire stepped closer. "You've always belonged to me. Blood doesn't make family, choice does." He broke. Claire wrapped her arms around him, and for a moment, the years between them dissolved. But only for a moment. "There's more," Ethan said, pulling back. "Richard wants full control of everything. Your house, your pension, your legal rights. He plans to file for power of attorney under grounds of mental decline." Claire's breath caught. "That's why he sent those men. That's what the medical questions in those documents were for." Ethan nodded. "He's going to say you're unfit. And you were going to let him?" "I was scared. But not anymore." Claire turned, her mind racing. "We need to end this today." She called Luke. "I want a private meeting. Just me and Richard. Neutral ground." Luke hesitated. "You sure?" "Yes. And I want you recording everything." An hour later, Claire stood at a small coastal park, one Richard used to picnic at during fundraisers. He arrived on time. Clean suit. Calm eyes. "You've aged well," he said with a smirk. Claire didn't smile. "You've weaponized my son. Stolen my identity. Forged my future." Richard shrugged. "I gave Ethan a purpose. Something you never did. I gave him love. Stability. You gave him a leash." He took a step closer. "You still have a chance to walk away. Quietly. We'll settle, say it was a clerical mix-up. You keep a little. I take the rest." Claire stared at him. "I'm not here to negotiate." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small voice recorder. "Everything you just said?" "I got it." Richard's face darkened. "And this flash drive," she added. "It's with my lawyer. Along with a signed affidavit from your employees, Dana's forged contracts, and a list of shell companies tied to you. You're finished." Richard lunged for her arm, but Claire stepped back. "You think this is over?" he growled. "No," Claire said. "I think it's just beginning, for you." She turned and walked away. Back at the house, Luke called. "Claire, the DA's office wants to speak with you. They've reviewed the files. They're moving fast." She exhaled, heart pounding. That night, Ethan sat beside her on the porch. "I never wanted to be part of this," he said. "But I was. And I can't undo it. But I can testify." Claire nodded slowly. "Then we end it together." The house was quiet again, too quiet. Claire paced the kitchen while Ethan sat at the table, nervously tapping his fingers. The recorder with Richard's confession lay between them. A loaded silence filled the air. They were both startled when the back door creaked open. Marisol stepped inside. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "I had to come back," she whispered. Claire stiffened. "You already gave me what I needed." Marisol nodded. "But Richard knows. He knows I flipped. He'll come after me. I needed to warn you." A sudden crash. The front door burst open. Gavin Shaw entered, red-faced, breathless, gun drawn. "Where is it?" he shouted. "Where's the flash drive?" Ethan stepped in front of Claire. Gavin, put the gun down. Don't play hero, kid. You're in this too. Marisol backed against the wall, hands up. Gavin, please. This isn't you. It is now, he said. Richard's done waiting. Claire moved slowly, keeping her eyes on the gun. You work for him? I work for whoever pays, Gavin snarled. And Richard pays very well. Claire nodded toward the table. The flash drive's right there. But you won't make it out of here with it. Gavin took a step forward. Don't, Ethan warned. There's a camera. Everything you do is being recorded. Gavin hesitated. Claire seized the moment, grabbed the ceramic fruit bowl, and hurled it at him. The gun clattered to the floor. Ethan dove for it. They wrestled until Claire snatched the weapon, steady in her hands. Enough, she said. You're done. Police sirens wailed. Officers stormed in, cuffed Gavin, and secured evidence. One handed Claire a file from Gavin's car, contracts, names, fraud. As Gavin was dragged out, he sneered. He'll still come for you. Claire's voice was steel. Let him. Courtroom confrontation. The Cape May courthouse was colder than Claire remembered. She sat beside Luke, papers spread out, Ethan silent at her side. Richard Harlow entered, smug, flanked by a polished lawyer. Your Honor, Luke began, we present overwhelming evidence of fraud, coercion, and criminal intent. We request revocation of the sale and full restitution. The opposing lawyer rose. We question Ms. Bennett's mental capacity. We have expert testimony prepared. Claire stood. Your Honor, I'm not senile. I'm not confused. I am angry, yes, but prepared. I gave everything to my son and to this house. What I never gave was permission. She handed over a flash drive. Contained in this are confessions, forged documents, emails, and threats. The judge frowned. Serious allegations. All transactions are frozen until full hearing. Richard's smile faltered. Outside, reporters swarmed. Luke patted her shoulder. You did more than enough today. Ethan hugged her. I'm sorry it came to this. Claire whispered, it's not over yet. The midnight note. That night, a plain envelope appeared at Claire's door. Inside, come to the cottage. Midnight. Alone. She didn't tell Ethan. At midnight she entered the abandoned beach cottage. Richard stood inside. You've made things complicated, he said. I gave Ethan purpose. I gave you a graceful exit. Instead, we're here, lawyers, cameras, scandal. You forged my name, Claire said. You filed for power of attorney. You sent a man into my home with a gun. Gavin was impatient, Richard shrugged. He's gone now. He leaned in. Give me the recorder and flash drive, I'll walk away. You keep the house. Claire met his eyes. No deal. His jaw tightened. You're being foolish. Maybe. But I'm free. Before he could reply, a gunshot shattered the window. Claire dove to the floor. Richard yelled into his phone, demanding escape. Claire bolted with the recorder, running until the cottage vanished behind her. Betrayal exposed. By morning, police swarmed the site. Detective Rowley showed Claire a burner phone found outside, the last call made to Dana Price. Claire's heart sank. She confronted her sister by phone. You tried to kill him? Dana was cold. No. But I knew someone would. If he burned, you'd burn too. Either way, I win. You were my sister, Claire whispered, and you were always the favorite. That afternoon, prosecutors reviewed the evidence. The final blow was a video, Dana herself signing a deed transfer in Claire's name. Within hours, Dana was arrested. She never hated me, Claire told Luke. She envied me. That was worse. A new legacy. Weeks later, the storm had passed. Richard was indicted on fraud and conspiracy. Dana turned state's witness, Marisol vanished. One knock changed everything. A young woman stood at Claire's door with a toddler. "My name's Lila," she said softly. "This is Ellie. Ethan's daughter." "Your granddaughter." Claire's breath caught. She opened the door wide. Inside, Ellie tugged on a picture book. "Nana, read?" Tears stung Claire's eyes as she pulled her onto her lap and read a story she had once read to Ethan. Later, on the porch, Claire held Ellie's tiny hand. "She's going to grow up knowing where she belongs," she said. Ethan nodded. "And this time, we protect her legacy." Full circle. A week later, Luke returned with final papers. "The deed is yours again," he said, placing it in her hands. Claire whispered, "No. It's ours." That evening, Ethan painted the porch rails. Ellie dabbed at the wood with her own brush. "Good job," Claire laughed. Ellie grinned. "It's Sky Splash." Claire ruffled her curls. "Of course it is." Later, in the attic, Claire found an old letter from her late husband Thomas. "If this house outlives me, let it hold joy. Not shadows. Pass it on, and let it heal." She framed it beside Ellie's drawing of a wobbly blue beach house. As night fell, Claire lit a single lantern on the porch. Ethan joined her, quiet. "Do you think we'll be okay?" he asked. She nodded. "We already are." The house stood tall against the tide, not as a relic of loss, but as a promise for the future. A place rebuilt with truth and love.